After winning 100 million in the lottery, I quit my job and went back home. As soon as I reached the door, I heard my brother's wife, Zoe Cook, saying, "Mom, I want to buy a mansion. Tell Kathy Jones to pay the down payment." My mom replied, "She just finished paying off the mortgage on this house last week. She probably doesn't have any money." Zoe scoffed, "Did you forget? Jim likes her. Make Kathy marry him and then ask for $1 million to cover the down payment." My dad added, "That's a good idea. Then the mansion will be my grandson's wedding house." Zoe commented, "By the way, Mom, Dad, when Kathy gets back, tell her to move out. My brother will be moving into her room." It was the first time I overheard this kind of conversation. I never expected them to be so ungrateful. I lifted my head, holding back tears. I felt so bitter. The draft in the hallway made me shiver. I stood outside the door for a long time before taking a deep breath and opening it. "I've told you many times to be more careful when coming in. My son is sleeping. Don't forget again, okay?" Zoe looked at me with disdain and then turned to my parents, winking at them. My dad coldly asked, "Why did you come home so early today? Didn't you say you'd be working overtime?" "I was fired," I said flatly, and everyone was stunned. My brother, David Jones, was the first to react. "What? Why did they fire you? Was it because you upset Jim Wood by rejecting him?" Jim Wood was my direct supervisor. He was petty, strict, and lecherous during the years I worked for him. The pressure was so intense that I often suffered from insomnia and hair loss. Whenever I couldn't help but complain to my family, they always scolded me, saying I was overreacting. Eventually, I stopped telling them anything. I didn't want to talk to them anymore, so I turned and headed to my room. But my mom stopped me as soon as she heard I was unemployed. Her expression changed instantly, and she said directly, "Pack your things and move out tomorrow. Zoe's brother will be living here. Why should I give up my room for him? I bought this house. I'm not leaving." My father got furious.
"What do you mean by that?"
"You have to move out." Zoe seized the moment and added, "Exactly. Just because you paid for the house, you think you own it? You're going to get married sooner or later and leave the house. I'm warning you. Don't even think about it." David grabbed my suitcase from the room and shoved it toward me. "It's already decided. We're just informing you. Stop talking nonsense and get out." My parents had always looked down on me since I was born, while David used to be kind to me. But ever since he got married, he completely changed and did everything Zoe told him to do. Zoe had always been cold toward me and took her frustrations out on me when in a bad mood. My parents and David always turned a blind eye, and no one ever stood up for me. I thought we were family, and that if I was good enough to them, they would eventually change. I worked hard to earn money and buy this big house, but in the end, I became the most dispensable person. "This house is mine. I'm not moving out." After saying that, I dragged my suitcase back into my room. I unpacked the clothes and hung them back in the closet one by one. Zoe sneered, "Mom, Dad, see? Your daughter has grown so bold that she doesn't care about anyone." My father, enraged, tried to slap me, but I grabbed his arm and he couldn't move.
"Dad, don't get mad.
"Just tell me what I said wrong." Zoe yelled, "You're completely wrong. This is the Jones house. You should obey your parents." My mom tried to calm my dad and softly complained, "Kathy, I don't want to blame you, but we're only asking you to move out for a few days. Why are you making such a big fuss?" "A few days? Mom, don't think I don't know. Zoe just got her brother a new job, so he plans to stay for a long time. This is my house. Why should I give it up to strangers?" "Strangers? How can Zoe's brother be a stranger? Since I married David, her brother is your family too. You should treat him like your own brother." Zoe gestured dramatically while speaking. "Treat him like my brother? Ridiculous." It was one thing for my parents, David, and Zoe to take advantage of my money, but why should I spend money on Zoe's lazy brother? They truly thought I was a fool. "Zoe, you're really shameless. My parents won't give me the key to that small house I bought before. Isn't it true that your parents are living there? So what?" Zoe replied arrogantly. My parents and brother just watched without any intention of stopping her. I looked at each of them. "So, you're all determined to kick me out, huh?" Zoe, gritting her teeth, said, "Yes. You're not giving those 2 houses back to me, are you?" My father glared at me angrily. "Nonsense. Don't even think about those houses. They don't belong to you, and it's not your decision. We'll see." I felt hopeless and suddenly didn't want to stay another minute. I didn't want to waste any more time arguing with them. This was a small issue that could be solved with a lawyer. I took nothing with me and left the house. That suitcase had been thrown out by David, and those old clothes had been handed down by Zoe because she didn't want them. I didn't want them either. I checked into the best 5-star hotel in town and consulted the best lawyer. I had paid the down payment and the mortgage on the houses. The lawyer said it wouldn't be hard to get them back. After hanging up the phone, I felt depressed and angry. I wanted to cry, but couldn't. My parents always favored David because he was a man. If it weren't for my grandparents paying for my education, I wouldn't have even finished high school. After getting into university, I worked up to 4 jobs at once, sometimes so exhausted I'd fall asleep standing. After graduating, I got a full-time day job and a part-time job at a fast food restaurant at night. I worked hard for years, saved every penny, and finally got my parents and David out of my grandparents' old house. I thought buying 2 houses would make life easier. But unexpectedly, I was kicked out overnight just because I lost my job. They completely turned their backs on me. How ridiculous. Family love could disappear in an instant, but at least I was lucky in another way. I looked at my bank account balance and couldn't help but smile. I still had money. $100 million. An amount I couldn't spend in 10 lifetimes. I bought a seaside mansion in a luxury area. Now, I woke up whenever I wanted, did yoga, and watched TV. Life was incredibly comfortable. There was a homeowners group in the mansion community. After joining, everyone warmly welcomed me. They were all wealthy women who talked daily about makeup, clothes, and similar topics. I never used to care about those things, but now my mindset had changed. With money in the bank, I told myself I should indulge and enjoy life. So, I joined their conversations enthusiastically. In a few days, I became friends with them, and we often went out for coffee or shopping together. One day, I was in a luxury store with my new friends when suddenly, my father called me, furious. "You are such a bitch. You sued us. The court summons have arrived, and the neighbors are mocking us. Ungrateful. If I had known you'd turn out like this, I should have strangled you when you were born." My mother grabbed the phone and started crying hysterically. "We only had a few arguments. Why do you have to make such a big scene now? We're so humiliated in the community. They almost believe we treated you badly." I couldn't help but let out a sarcastic laugh. Wasn't it true? They never treated me well, and now they even kicked me out of my own house. Since I was a child, I always had endless chores waiting for me as soon as I got home. But I never minded because we were family. However, after David got married, and especially when they had a baby, I had even more to do and became more exhausted. No matter how kind I was to them, my parents and Zoe were never satisfied. They truly treated me like a free maid. My friends used to joke that I must have owed them a debt from a past life because I worked like a slave to pay it off. I could only bitterly smile. "Kathy, we gave you life and raised you. That's a huge favor. What more do you want?" "I want nothing but justice." After saying that, I hung up the phone. My friends and I continued enjoying our shopping. Just as we were about to leave the mall, I saw Zoe walking toward me, chatting and laughing with a middle-aged man. They looked like a loving couple. When Zoe spotted me, she panicked and quickly distanced herself from the man. "Kathy, are you spying on me? I didn't think you were that kind of person. Why don't you go find a job instead of following me?" Seeing the guilty look on her face, I wasn't angry. I just laughed. "I'm in no rush to find a job, and I have zero interest in following you. Who do you think you are?" At that moment, my friend Mary Lee couldn't hold back. "Who is this woman, Kathy?" Mary asked. "She's my brother's wife," I replied. Mary immediately recognized the man. "Ben Cox, you're meeting with a married woman. Aren't you afraid your wife will find out?" Zoe rolled her eyes and lied. "I'm not her brother's wife. She's talking nonsense. I'm just one of Ben's employees. Our relationship isn't what you think. Don't misunderstand." Ben frantically waved his hands, desperately trying to distance himself from the situation. Zoe then threatened me. "Kathy, I'm warning you. If you tell David, I'll rip your tongue out." Right then, David appeared. He had come shopping with his boss and, upon seeing us arguing from afar, rushed over. "Kathy, I'm warning you. Don't upset Zoe. She's pregnant with our second child. If it's a boy, it'll be a great contribution to our family." Our family, I thought. Since the day they kicked me out, I no longer had anything to do with them. David's expression instantly darkened. "This isn't something you can decide. You're so stupid. Even if you win the lawsuit against our parents, you'll still have to pay alimony. Either way, the 2 houses are ours, so alimony means nothing to us." At the mention of the houses, Zoe lost control. "Those 2 houses are ours. Don't think you're going to keep them." Zoe had always been irrational. I worked hard to buy those houses, and now I was simply reclaiming what was mine. I hired a lawyer, and I'll be getting those houses back soon. You two should go home and start packing. Think carefully about where you'll live next. Zoe was so furious that her face turned red. She turned and slapped David. "Are you going to let Kathy humiliate me like this? What's wrong with you?" David then tried to attack me, but my friends immediately surrounded him and stopped him. Vand, another one of my friends, looked at Zoe with disgust and said, "Why don't you take your husband and leave? You can't afford to pick a fight with women like us. We all live in the mansion community." Zoe stared at me in shock. "How did you end up with them? Are you working as their maid?" Mary glared at her and replied disdainfully, "A maid? Kathy is our neighbor. You rented a mansion. Where did you get the money for that? Did you secretly marry Jim, and he gave you monies?" Zoe asked incredulously. Mary laughed sarcastically. Kathy didn't rent her mansion. She bought it outright. David and Zoe were stunned. What? When David and Zoe were left speechless upon learning that I had bought the mansion outright, an indescribable satisfaction surged through my veins. But it still wasn't enough. They deserved more than shock. They deserved to feel the weight of the contempt I had carried for years. With a smile that blended disdain and superiority, I turned to my friends and said, "Let's get out of here, ladies. I've wasted enough time on people who aren't worth it." As we started walking away, I heard David's voice tremble with rage. "Kathy, do you really think you're going to get away with this? You have nothing. Those houses are ours, and I swear to God you'll end up alone, begging on the streets, just like you always should have been. Pretend all you want that you're in a better position now, but you're not. You've always been dead weight." I stopped in my tracks and looked at him from a distance, a mix of pity and disdain in my eyes. "David, do you seriously think you're going to come out of this looking like the victim? You're married to a woman who lies, cheats, and manipulates, and you delude yourself into thinking you're better than me? Zoe treats you like a puppet, and we all know it. You know what's funny? Even with all the support from our parents, even being the golden child, you've never built anything on your own. I bought those houses. I paid for the comfortable life you all live, and now that the ground is shaking beneath you, all you can do is threaten me. How pathetic." David was speechless, but Zoe, furious, lunged toward me, her face twisted in rage. "You think you're better than us, don't you? Just because you got lucky and won the lottery? You're a loser, Kathy. You always have been, and you always will be. Nothing will change the fact that you're just a bitter, lonely spinster with no one." I took a deep breath, and for a moment, I considered letting her keep spewing her insults. But then I realized I had endured enough my entire life. I stepped close enough for Zoe to see the firmness in my eyes and, with a steady voice full of disdain, I responded, "I might be single, Zoe, but at least I'm free. Free from an unhappy marriage with a man who treats me like garbage and from a family that never valued me. Now look at you, stuck in a life built on lies, manipulation, and betrayal. You think you're in control, but the truth is you're just a prisoner of your own actions. Keep making threats. Keep lying to yourself. In the end, it's you who will end up alone." Before Zoe could reply, one of my friends, Mary, stepped in and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Kathy, don't waste your time on people like them. Let's go." As we walked away, I heard Zoe explode with rage. "You'll regret this, Kathy. I swear I'll destroy you." I didn't look back. Instead, I turned to Mary and smiled. What a pathetic performance. That night, when I got home, I opened a bottle of wine and allowed myself to relax on the balcony of my new mansion. The sea breeze brushed against my face, and for the first time in a long while, I truly felt at peace. Yet, something inside me was still unsettled. I knew the legal battle would be resolved, and I would reclaim the houses, but that wasn't enough anymore. They needed to learn, in the harshest way possible, that I was no longer the naive girl they could control. The next morning, I called my lawyer and asked him to expedite the lawsuits against my parents and my brother. Within days, court summons were delivered to their doorstep, and soon I saw them squirm under the weight of justice. But this was just the beginning. I hired private investigators to track every move Zoe and David made. I knew Zoe had more to hide than just that meeting with Ben Cox, and I wanted every possible piece of evidence. It didn't take long for the results to come in. Zoe wasn't only cheating on David with Ben, but also with another man. Even worse, she had been siphoning money from their joint account to fund her personal luxuries. Once I had all the evidence in hand, I knew it was time to use it. I arranged a reconciliation dinner with my family, sending formal invitations for them to meet me at an upscale restaurant. I knew they would come. Curiosity and fear of losing any chance to regain control would drive them there. On the night of the dinner, I wore my best dress, one that radiated power and control, and prepared for the show. When my parents, David, and Zoe arrived, their faces were tense, full of expectation. Zoe looked particularly nervous, which only made me smile inwardly. They sat down, and I began to speak calmly. "I've thought a lot about everything that's happened between us, and I've come to the conclusion that maybe you're right, maybe I overreacted a little." I saw relief flash across their faces, especially Zoe's, who immediately tried to seize the opportunity.
See?
"I knew you'd understand, Kathy. We're family, and we shouldn't be fighting like this. I always knew you knew what was right." I nearly laughed out loud but held it in. I looked directly into Zoe's eyes and, with a cold smile, slid an envelope across the table. "Before you continue, you might want to take a look at this." She hesitated but grabbed the envelope. As she opened it and flipped through the photos and documents of her affairs and embezzlement, panic spread across her face. David, noticing her reaction, snatched the photos and stared at them in shock. "What is this, Zoe?" Zoe tried to stammer out an explanation, but I cut her off, savoring every second. "That, David, is the real Zoe. Your perfect wife, the mother of your second child, cheating on you with multiple men and stealing money from you. And before you even think about confronting her, know that I've already sent copies of everything to your boss and all your friends." David turned pale, his hands trembling as he dropped the photos onto the table. Zoe, desperate, began crying and pleading, but no one was listening anymore. I looked at my parents and finished. "And as for you two, soon, you'll be receiving a court order to vacate my houses. Enjoy your last days there." I stood up, tossed the bill onto the table, and as I walked away, their panicked, desperate voices echoed through the restaurant. After my victory in court and the recovery of the two houses, I realized there was still more to be done. Winning $100 million in the lottery had given me more than just comfort. It had given me power and, above all, options. I decided that merely reclaiming what was mine wasn't enough. Now was the time to plan my next move. And nothing seemed more rewarding than investing in real estate. After all, in the city where I had lived for so long, there was a growing demand for quality properties, and I had more than enough money to seize that opportunity. I reached out to a reputable real estate agency in the area and began acquiring properties little by little, discreetly, without raising suspicion. My goal was clear: to expand my influence in the local real estate market without anyone knowing I was behind the purchases. I bought houses, apartments, and small commercial buildings, all in prime, strategic locations. Each new investment grew my portfolio, and my presence in the market silently expanded. About 3 months after my parents were forced to vacate the house I had reclaimed, I received news that made me laugh to myself for hours. Apparently, they were facing financial difficulties. With David completely ruined after the scandal with Zoe and unable to help, my parents were forced to look for a new house to rent. Out of all the options in the area, they became interested in a house that was, coincidentally, managed by the real estate agency handling my properties. Unaware of who owned the property, my parents signed the rental agreement with the agency. And without even suspecting it, they moved into one of the houses I had bought with a portion of the $100 million I had won. Fate had taken care of delivering the revenge I didn't even need to fully orchestrate. When I received the notification of the first rent deposit in my account, I couldn't help but flash a wicked smile. My parents, who had kicked me out of my own house and treated me like a burden my entire life, were now paying rent directly to me without even knowing it. The irony of it all was so delicious it felt unreal. They, who always thought they were in control, now depended on me for their very roof. And the best part, they had absolutely no idea. Weeks passed, and I continued receiving their payments on time. My other properties were also generating excellent income, and I felt increasingly satisfied. Life was finally giving me everything I deserved, and my parents didn't even realize how fate had taken care of paying them back. It was a sense of silent justice, one that didn't require me to get my hands dirty. One day, I received a call from the real estate agency. The agent, with a polite tone, informed me that the tenants of one of my houses, the one my parents were living in, wanted to discuss a possible rent reduction, claiming financial difficulties. It was the cherry on top. My parents were struggling and needed help, but this time, I was the one in control. I scheduled a meeting, without revealing who I was, of course. When my parents arrived at the real estate office, I was placed in a private room where I could watch them through the security camera. It was almost surreal to see my parents there, sitting humbly, trying to negotiate. My father, who once had unshakable pride, now sat with his head down. My mother, who had hysterically cried on the phone months ago, now spoke in a pleading tone. "Is it really impossible to lower the rent a little? Could the owner maybe reconsider?" my father asked the agent, visibly embarrassed. I could have easily agreed, let them pay less, but why should I make things easier? They didn't make anything easier for me when I needed them most.
No.
I decided the rent would stay exactly the same. The agent politely conveyed the decision, and upon hearing it, my father looked visibly frustrated. My mother began to cry. Watching that scene, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me still had that old urge to please, to be seen as a good daughter. But that Kathy was long gone. Now, I was a woman who made cold, practical decisions. And at that moment, the right decision was to let them feel the full weight of the consequences of their actions. I quietly left the room without them seeing me and returned to my mansion. The money would keep flowing into my account every month, and even though they didn't know it, my parents were now trapped in a cycle where I held all the power. They had lost all control over me, and the ultimate irony was that while they thought they were free of me, they were actually living under my roof. I controlled them from a distance, and that brought me a sense of silent justice that no confrontation could ever match. Fate had indeed delivered the revenge for me, and all I had to do was watch.
At a family gathering, Mom said, "Your sister just bought an expensive apartment. You couldn't do that." So I smiled and replied, "I did it 2 years ago." No one bothered to ask. They demanded a housewarming party, and I just sat looking at my phone, incredulous. My mother had just called, inviting me to dinner at my parents' house. We hadn't spoken in months, and I hadn't visited them in years. I'm Donna, I'm 32 years old, and I'm the black sheep of the family, or at least, that's how they see me. Growing up, I was always the second choice. My younger sister, Melissa, was the favorite. The golden child who never made mistakes. She was prettier, more charming, and had that ability to captivate everyone, especially our parents. It's not that they were cruel to me. It was just obvious who they preferred. The dance recital they missed because they were too busy. Somehow, when it was Melissa's turn, time appeared. My average grades provoked lectures, but hers meant she's doing her best. I sighed and put my phone on the marble countertop. Its coolness reminded me of that small luxury in the apartment I never told them about. Why was Mom calling now? What did they want? All right, I muttered to myself. I'll go. A week later, I arrived at my parents' simple suburban house. I dressed deliberately plain, jeans, a basic blouse, few accessories. Nothing that would suggest I wasn't the mediocre manager they imagined. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Dad opened the door. "Donna, come in." "Come in." His welcome was warm but somewhat distracted. As soon as I crossed the living room, I saw why. Melissa was on the sofa, putting on a full show with Mom and Dad, attentive to her every word as she told some anecdote from work. She stopped when she saw me. Her perfect smile didn't falter. "Oh, the prodigal daughter has returned," she said with fake sweetness. Mom immediately stood up. "Donna, honey, it's good you came." She gave me a quick hug and immediately went back to sit next to Melissa. I settled into an armchair across from them, watching as Melissa scanned my clothes with barely disguised contempt. "I love that vintage secondhand style," she commented sarcastically. "Thanks," I responded. "Don't worry. Not all of us need brand names to feel good." Dad cleared his throat. "Well, Donna, your mother prepared something nice for dinner. It'll be ready in about 20 minutes. We talked about superficial things until Mom called us to the table. The same table from our childhood, but now it seemed part of another life. Dad served wine. Melissa resumed her role as the center of attention, talking about her job at the marketing agency. They literally begged me to take the Johnson account. They say I'm the only one who can handle it. That's wonderful. "Honey," Mom said, touching her hand with pride. Dad turned to me. "And you, Donna? Still at the same company? As what? Weren't you an assistant of something?" I took a sip of wine before answering. "I'm still at Berkshire Financial." "Really?" Melissa let out a laugh. "Seriously? 8 years in the same position. Most people would have been promoted by now." I clenched my jaw but kept my composure. They didn't know that I had been a financial director for 3 years, that my annual bonus exceeded Melissa's entire salary, that last year I made the Business Weekly 40 under 40 list, but I never told them. They were never interested. I just smiled. "Not everyone rushes ahead or has your talent," Mom added, serving Melissa more mashed potatoes. Dinner continued at the same pace. Melissa showing off, my parents admiring her, and me simply present. "I've been saving for Hawaii for months," Melissa commented, "but when you earn well, it's not that difficult." She gave me a self-sufficient look. "That's good," I replied, putting down my fork. "But I have to leave. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Thanks for dinner." I got up and grabbed my purse. Mom walked me to the door. "It was nice seeing you, honey," she said, touching my shoulder. Driving back to my apartment downtown, a suspicion wouldn't leave me in peace. That reunion had a hidden motive. Whatever it was, I was glad to be back home. Already in my spacious apartment, I took off my shoes and poured myself a glass of real wine. Not the cheap stuff they served there. Just as I settled on the balcony, with the view of the illuminated city, my cell phone vibrated with a message. "Hope you're not too sad about your pathetic life, sister. Not all of us can be successful. Don't worry. I'll send you a postcard from Hawaii." I looked at it for a while and then laughed. If she only knew. I deleted the message, took another sip of wine, and enjoyed the view from the 28th floor of my luxury building. My relationship with my family wasn't always like this. As a child, before Melissa was born, everything was different. I remember Dad throwing me in the air, Mom telling me bedtime stories. But everything changed when Melissa arrived when I was 4 years old. She was an angelic baby. She hardly cried, always smiling, with huge blue eyes that charmed everyone. By age 10, I understood my place. Melissa was special. I was just there. I did everything to earn their approval. Clubs, studying until dawn, volunteering. In high school, I was the best student. Captain of the debate team, yearbook editor. At my graduation, I looked for their proud faces in the crowd, but their seats were empty. They had gone to Melissa's dance competition. That day, something broke inside me. I understood that I would never be enough for them, so I stopped trying. I got a full scholarship to Princeton. I graduated with honors and started at Berkshire Financial. After 5 years, I was already leading a team, and 3 years ago, I was promoted to financial director. They know nothing about it. My phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Mom again. I hesitated, but answered. "Next Saturday, we're having a family gathering," she said. "Everyone's coming, Aunt Carol, Uncle Jim, your cousins. We'd love for you to come." I frowned. "And what are we celebrating?" "Oh, just a special announcement," she said with a mysterious tone. I should have said no, but curiosity got the better of me. "All right, what time?" "At 4. And Donna, try to dress appropriately." I hung up furiously, as if I usually went around in pajamas. Standing in front of my closet, I hesitated. I chose a black Chanel dress. Elegant, understated, expensive. To most, it would look simple, but it was worth more than Melissa's monthly salary. When I arrived, the driveway was full of cars. I recognized several family members' vehicles. I took a deep breath and went in. "Donna," Aunt Carol shouted, hugging me. "I haven't seen you in years. What a formal woman you've become." "Nice to see you too, Aunt Carol." I smiled for 15 minutes, chatted with relatives I barely remembered while my parents and Melissa whispered in a corner, glancing at me from time to time. Whatever they were going to announce had them very excited. I never liked family gatherings. All those fake smiles, those passive-aggressive comments disguised as interest. The way everyone asks about you just to compare you with someone else. But that afternoon was different because I knew something they didn't know, and I was tired of pretending. Mom stood up with her wine glass in hand, a smile that almost seemed real. "Dear family," she said, gently tapping the glass with a small spoon, "thank you for being here. Today is a very special day. Melissa has something incredible to share with all of you." There it was, the big announcement. Melissa stood up like a model on a runway with that gleam in her eyes she only had when everyone was watching her. Her voice sounded measured, as if she had already rehearsed it in front of the mirror. "I've been offered a position as regional marketing director at a very prestigious company in Miami," she said, as if she'd just been chosen to save the world. "I'm moving in a month." The applause was immediate. Aunt Carol even got up to hug her. Mom looked like she was about to cry with emotion. I just poured myself more wine. "I'm very excited," Melissa continued, letting her gaze wander around the room until she found me. "Not everyone has the opportunity to grow. Some prefer comfort." I looked at her, not with anger, but with the icy calm I had learned to cultivate over the years. "Comfort?" I said softly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Melissa blinked. She hadn't expected a response. "Yes," she replied with a fake smile. "I mean, there are those who have been in the same job, the same position for years, and, well, if that makes them happy." All eyes turned to me. Mom pursed her lips. Dad took his glass with some tension in his jaw. I put mine on the table. I stood up slowly. "Well, I guess since we're sharing achievements," I said, "I can tell you that 3 years ago I was promoted to financial director at Berkshire Financial. Sounds familiar? It's a multinational company. I manage the finances of 3 regions and lead a team of 40 people." Absolute silence. The uncomfortable kind that feels like an echo. "Excuse me?" Mom murmured. "Yes, Mom, I earn quite well. Much better than as an assistant of something, as you used to say. In fact, last year I was on the Business Weekly 40 Under 40 list. But of course, since nobody asked, I never mentioned it." Melissa was looking at me with narrowed eyes. I didn't know if she was more surprised or furious. Probably both. I opened my purse, took out my phone, and held it up. "And by the way," I added, "since we're being honest, does this message you sent me after the last dinner sound familiar?" I clicked on it. I read aloud. "Hope you're not too sad about your pathetic life. Sister, not everyone can be successful. Don't worry. I'll send you a postcard from Hawaii." Some relatives let out small gasps. Uncle Jim shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Mom seemed to be looking for an explanation on the ceiling. "It was a joke," Melissa said with a forced little laugh. "Between sisters." "Right, Melissa?" I interrupted. "Yours was never a joke. It was always a competition that only you believed you were winning." I turned to my parents. They remained silent, pale, as if they didn't know at what moment they had stopped knowing me. And you're going to say something, because I spent my whole life seeking your approval. And in the end, I realized that I didn't need it. You chose a favorite and it wasn't me. That's fine. But today you have to see the woman I became without your help. And you can't pretend you didn't know. Dad parted his lips, but no word came out. Thanks for dinner, I said, picking up my purse. It was nice seeing everyone, even if for the last time. I walked to the door. Before leaving, I turned once more toward Melissa. And about that new position. Be careful with the reports you submit. You sent me 1 month ago for me to correct. It was full of errors. I saved you that time. There won't be a next time. I left. No slamming door, no tears. Just the certainty of having said everything I needed to say. And for the first time in many years, I felt free. The building's elevator still smelled of cheap perfume and reheated empanadas. As I descended to the ground floor, I looked at myself in the interior mirror. I was intact. Makeup in place, dress without a single wrinkle, posture straight. But something in my eyes had broken. Not from sadness, from exhaustion. When I went out to the street, the air was colder than I expected. I took a deep breath, took one step, and the phone vibrated. First a call from Mom, ignored. Then a message from Dad. Can we talk? I blocked him for 5 minutes. Not because I was angry, that had already passed. But because I knew that call would be full of excuses I wasn't interested in. I walked to my car, opened the door, and sat in silence with my hands on the steering wheel. I didn't want to go straight home. Not yet. The adrenaline was still making my ribs tremble. I entered into the GPS an address I hadn't written in years. I headed to the University Cafe, the one I frequented when I studied at Princeton. A new version had opened in the city. 25 minutes later, I was there. Same logo, same menu. As if someone had tried to bottle the memories. I went in. There weren't many people. I sat in a corner and ordered a double espresso without sugar. I took out my phone and opened Instagram. Melissa had already uploaded a selfie of the family announcement. Everyone smiling. Mom with glassy eyes, Dad applauding. Her in the center. Blessed with so much love, the caption said. I almost spat out my coffee. After 5 minutes, I received another message from an unknown number. Hi, it's Martin. I don't know if you remember me. Second cousin, Cousin Sonia's son. I was at the meeting today. Can we talk? I blinked. Martin. Yes, I remembered. A short, shy guy who was always glued to his mother at meetings years ago. He had grown up and apparently had been there watching everything. About what? I replied. His answer was immediate. About Melissa and about something I think you should know. I gave him my location. In less than 20 minutes, he appeared. He was taller than I remembered, with somewhat messy hair and square glasses. He wore a shirt with rolled-up sleeves and a face of being on the verge of saying something important for some time. He sat across from me without asking permission. It didn't bother me. You were brutal today, he said without hesitation. Thank you. It was time. I want to tell you something because I think, well, it might affect you or protect you or help you. I don't know. I made a sign for him to speak. Melissa didn't get that job in Miami. I stared at him. Sorry? It was all a lie. Well, half a lie. She did apply, but they rejected her. I work at that same company. The presentation she sent was a disaster. There's an internal list with the worst candidates of the month. She's in the top 5. I leaned back in my chair. My heart was beating hard. Not from surprise. From confirmation. And that's not all, he continued. I heard your parents before you arrived. They were planning the announcement as if it were real. They knew. They knew everything. But they still presented her as a star. I remained silent. I wasn't even sure which part hurt more, the lie or the collaboration. Why are you telling me this? I asked him. Because you were the only honest person in that place. And because I like you, even if you don't know me. I observed him for a moment. Do you have proof? He nodded. He took out his phone, looked for an email. He showed it to me. A PDF file with internal comments from the selection department. Melissa Johnson. Technical weakness. Inflated data. Not viable for the position. A friend leaked it to me. He also knows it was all an act. I closed my eyes for a moment. I took a deep breath. Thank you, I finally said. I don't know what I'll do with this, but thank you. Do whatever you want, but in case you're interested. He opened a folder on his phone. There's a vacancy they just opened in my department, Senior BP. I'd like to work with you. I smiled for the first time that night. Are you inviting me to apply? No, I'm asking you to come fix the chaos that others, like Melissa, left. I leaned toward him. And what does it take? Courage? Coldness? An excellent memory. I had it all. I left the cafe after 11. On my phone, 5 more unread messages. One from Mom. What you did wasn't fair. Your sister is having a hard time. We'll talk later. I blocked her. I had spoken enough for one night. The next day, I woke up before the sun, not because I had something urgent to do, but because my body was still in alert mode. The family dinner, the lies, Martin's revelation, everything was spinning in my head like a broken dryer. I stayed in bed looking at the ceiling while the city began to move down below. The email with the PDF was still on my phone like a bomb about to explode. I reread it 3 times. Each line was another stake in the myth of perfection that my family had built around Melissa. It was ironic. While I was building a real career without anyone noticing, she was putting up a flimsy facade and everyone applauded as if it were marble. It wasn't. It was cardboard painted with cheap gold. I got up, made coffee, and sat in front of my laptop. Martin was right. There was a vacancy, a very juicy one. Not that I needed the job, but what better way to close a circle than by entering through the door that had been slammed in Melissa's face? I opened my resume, updated it. I uploaded the cover letter. Personalized, direct, elegant. I sent it. 20 minutes later, an automatic confirmation. 2 hours later, a human response. We'd love to meet you. Availability for an interview this week? I replied yes. I smiled. Not for the job, for the silent message that would send. At 5 p.m., the phone rang. It was Mom again. This time I let it ring. Then came a message. Your sister is devastated. She says she can't get out of bed. Are you happy now? No, I replied. What irony. A lifetime minimizing my emotions, and now, suddenly Melissa's sadness was a national tragedy. But that wasn't what bothered me. What really pissed me off was the fact that still, even after everything, my mother expected me to feel guilty. 2 days later, I was at the interview. Glass skyscraper, 41st floor, view of the bay. Miss Johnson, the operations director told me, I won't lie to you. We already had an internal candidate in mind, but your profile impressed us. I'm glad to hear that, I replied. And I know this may sound inappropriate, but do you have any relationship with Melissa Johnson? I looked him in the eyes. Yes, she's my younger sister. He leaned back in his chair. Curious. She applied recently and didn't pass the filter. Not surprising, I said, crossing my legs. Sometimes having the same last name doesn't mean having the same level of preparation. The man smiled. He wrote something down. I returned home that night with a strange mix of calm and expectation. I knew that by accepting that job, I was entering new territory. One where I didn't have to hide who I was, what I had achieved, or what I was worth, but it was also an act of silent warfare. A declaration. The next day was even better. Martin called me. Have you seen Melissa's Instagram? No, why? She posted that she's reconsidering her next steps, that she rejected an opportunity because she prefers to focus on personal projects. I let out a laugh that escaped without meaning to. Of course, personal projects, lying to everyone. Your parents' hearts, happy faces? Obviously. When the lie is comfortable, no one wants the truth. Silence on the line. Then Martin spoke again. Hey, what if I invite you to dinner? Would that be weird? I blinked. Not from surprise, but because my brain took a second to make the transition from cold revenge plan to someone is flirting with me. Depends. Does dinner include decent wine? The best. And no stories about perfect cousins? Then maybe yes. That night, already in pajamas, I received one last message from Mom. Short, cold. I don't recognize what you've become. I looked at it. I stayed a while with my finger hovering over the screen and finally wrote, I became someone who no longer needs your approval. Send silence. And for the first time, that silence was mine. Martin arrived on time. He brought a bottle of Chilean wine and a smile that suited him too well to be part of my family. We dined at a discreet Italian restaurant, without pretentious lights or ridiculously decorated dishes, just good food and unfiltered conversations. Were you always like this? He asked while dipping a piece of bread in olive oil. So direct? No, it took me years to stop asking permission to exist, I answered. He nodded as one who understands without judging. I liked that. I didn't want consolation. I wanted a clean look. Almost at the end of dinner, my phone vibrated. Email notification. I opened it. It was from Martin's company. Formal offer, very high salary, obscene benefits. A short message. We hope you accept. Your profile is exactly what we need. Martin looked at me. I saw that he knew, but he didn't say anything. He just raised his glass. To what's coming, he said. Shall we toast? 2 days later, I signed the contract. I accepted the position. And with that, I accepted something else. I was no longer the Donna who pretended to be less to not make others uncomfortable. I was no longer going to bend to fit into spaces that didn't want me complete. But of course, the universe wasn't going to let me savor that in peace. One morning, while checking emails on my balcony, the building doorman called me. He had an envelope for me with no return address. I went down. I received it. Upon opening it, I found a wrinkled printed sheet, a photograph. The sheet was a letter from Dad. Donna, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to say it. Your mother is not well. She has been very affected since the meeting. She says she can't sleep, that she feels she lost her daughters. I don't know what to do. She will never accept that she was wrong, but she is suffering. If you can come home this week, maybe we can talk. The photograph disarmed me a little. It was old. I was about 8 years old, in a blue dress, sitting on Dad's lap, smiling with all my teeth. Melissa hadn't been born yet. I remembered that day. We had gone to an amusement park. Dad had won me a huge stuffed animal in a ring toss game. Mom was laughing for once. We were a family. I went back to the balcony with the letter in my hand. I stayed there for a long time. Not because I wanted to forgive, but because, despite everything, that story was also mine. The following Saturday, I went. I didn't tell them. I rang the bell and waited. Dad opened. His expression was one of absolute shock. Donna, I just came to get something I left. I lied. Mom appeared in the hallway. She was thinner, with deep circles under her eyes. But when she saw me, she straightened up as if nothing was wrong. I wasn't expecting to see you, she said. I know. You're here to keep humiliating us, aren't you? I did enough of that with the truth, didn't I? She pursed her lips. I always thought you were tougher, but you turned out to be cruel. I'm not cruel, Mom. I'm a woman who got tired of swallowing silence so you could sleep peacefully. We looked at each other for a long time. No one lowered their gaze. Finally, I spoke. Martin told me the truth, that you knew about Melissa's job, that you lied to maintain the facade. Dad ran a hand over his face. It was your mother's idea. Of course it was mine, Mom said, raising her voice. And what did you want? For us to let her fall in front of everyone? Your sister was devastated. My sister was trapped in a lie, and you preferred to sustain it rather than confront it. And on top of that, you used me as a target. Silence. Again. I broke my back for years, I continued. I got everything I have on my own, but for you, that doesn't count because I didn't shout it from the rooftops. Dad lowered his head. Mom didn't. She never... Do you know what else Martin told me? I said, approaching her. That you said Donna will never know. She never finds out about anything. Is that what you thought? That I'm stupid? Mom opened her mouth, but she had no answer. I didn't come to reconcile anything, I told her firmly. I just wanted you to see me face to face without disguises. This is me, the one you raised to be invisible, the one who survived without you. I turned, but before crossing the door, I stopped. And, by the way, I quit Berkshire. I accepted the position that Melissa didn't get. I'm going to occupy that office, and I'm going to do that job as it should be done. Then yes. I left, this time without looking back. In the car, I took a deep breath. I looked in the rearview mirror. The house of my childhood was shrinking like a memory that finally stopped hurting. My cell phone vibrated. A message from Martin. Is it okay if I celebrate with sushi and wine tonight? I smiled. Only if you choose the wine this time. I choose everything else. The wine bottle was open. 2 full glasses, a carefully selected sushi list, and Martin sitting on my sofa as if he had always been there. We didn't talk much. It was one of those comfortable silences, those that are only achieved when 2 people don't feel the need to impress. And how did it feel? He finally asked between a sip of dry white wine. The house thing. I shrugged. Liberating. Not because I won anything, but because I finally stopped losing energy on them. Martin nodded. In his way of looking at me, there was no pity. There was respect. And that was worth more than any family applause. The rest of the night flowed smoothly. Laughter, long looks. A connection I wasn't looking for, but now didn't want to let go. The following Monday, everything was set in motion. My arrival at the company wasn't quiet. My name had already run through the hallways. Some looked at me with respect, others with distrust. They knew someone else had wanted that position. They knew who. And although no one said it out loud, the Johnson surname was an uncomfortable echo. My assistant, Valeria, was direct. Your sister applied. Some here thought the position would be hers. When she didn't get it, She disappeared. No one understood what happened. What happened was that someone had to do the job well, I said, reviewing the report on my desk. And now it's me. Valeria smiled as if she had been waiting for someone to finally say the obvious. That same afternoon, I received an unexpected email from Melissa. Can we talk? I opened the message slowly. It only said, I won't ask for forgiveness, but I need to explain something to you. I know I have no right, but if you accept a coffee, I'll treat. I left it unanswered for 2 days. I thought about ignoring it completely, but something inside me wanted to see her. Not for her, for me. We met at a neutral coffee shop in a neighborhood where no one knew us. She arrived on time. She wore dark glasses, a loose sweater. She seemed smaller. Thank you for coming, she said, taking off her glasses. I didn't know if you would. I still don't know why I did. She swallowed. Her nails were undone. That already said a lot. I know I hurt you many times, and I know that for years I was cruel, more than you deserved. I said nothing. I just waited. But it wasn't just arrogance, she continued. It was fear. I always felt that you were more, smarter, more capable. But Mom and Dad always put me ahead. And I believed it, or pretended to believe it. And when you started to fail, no one wanted to see it, I said. Exactly, she whispered. Until you shouted it in front of everyone. I sighed. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because I was tired of disappearing so you all could shine. I know. And you deserved it. So why did you write to me? Melissa looked at me steadily, without makeup, with swollen eyes. Because I have nothing left. I lost the job, the credibility. And now Mom and Dad don't know how to sustain this version of me that no longer works. They never really cared about me. Just the idea they had of me. That hurt more than I expected. And you were real, she added with a lump in her throat. You built a life. I just repeated phrases. I saw her break without tears, just with that tremor in her voice that one cannot fake. Do you want my forgiveness? I asked. No. I no longer deserve it. So what do you want? Melissa lowered her gaze. A sister. If there's still something that can be saved. I kept looking at her. I thought of all the times I had waited for an apology, a word, a gesture. And there it was. Late? Yes, but alive. I don't trust you, I told her without softening it. But we could start from scratch. In another language, in another life. Even if it's just as two women who know each other. Even if it's just that. We left the cafe without saying much more. She went to the left, I to the right. For the first time, we were walking in opposite directions without the need to compete. When I got home, Martin was on the sofa. He looked at me, and it wasn't as horrible as I imagined. A step, a small one, but real. He nodded. He hugged me by the waist as if he knew I needed that more than words. And I, at last, let my shoulders drop. Time didn't change suddenly. No one became someone different overnight. Not Melissa, not Mom, not me. But something had moved at the company. My office already felt like mine. The desk had my things, the plants I like, and that precise silence for thinking. Valeria, my assistant, understood me with just a raised eyebrow. Martin sometimes came to pick me up after work. No pressure, no demands. It was easy. And the easy, I discovered, could also be valuable. One afternoon, I received a call from Mom. I didn't block it. I didn't ignore it either. Donna, she said as soon as I answered, I'm not going to apologize. I know you expect that, but I can't do it. Then don't, I replied. I just wanted you to know that we're selling the house. That did surprise me. Why? It doesn't feel like before. Everything there reminds us of what we didn't say, what we didn't do. Your father wants to move to something smaller, newer. And I want silence. I stayed quiet. She did too. As if we both understood that it was the symbolic end of something. Do you want anything from the house? She asked quietly. Anything of yours from when you were a child? No, I've already recovered what belongs to me. I hung up. Without hatred, without weight. It was like closing a door that had been ajar for years, letting in cold drafts. Weeks later, Melissa sent me a photo by message. She was in a small bookstore, with a coffee in one hand, a notebook in the other. I've gone back to writing, the text said. I didn't reply, but I smiled. She would know I read it. One Friday night, Martin took me to a bar with live jazz, candles, red wine, saxophone in the background. He took my hand without needing to say anything. I leaned toward him, resting my head on his shoulder. You know what cost me more than everything else? What? Accepting that I was never going to have the family I wanted, that they weren't going to change, and now I don't need them to feel whole. He squeezed my fingers like someone who understands without having to explain. People say you have to heal to close cycles, I whispered, but I think sometimes you have to close them to be able to start healing. We returned to my apartment. I took off my shoes at the entrance, as always. I walked barefoot on the marble floor. I opened the balcony. I looked at the city from the 28th floor. All that illuminated life. Not perfect, but mine. I breathed deeply, the wine still in my mouth, the distant noise of the city, the comfortable silence of knowing who I am. The story with my family didn't end with hugs. There was no miraculous reconciliation, just truths, some hard, others liberating. Others. The relationship with Melissa remained suspended in a kind of fragile truce. Maybe that's all we can give each other. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, not all stories need redemption. Some just need justice and peace. And I finally have it. The end. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you thought. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss more stories on different topics here on the channel.